Hello and welcome to Qsports, and thank you very much if you're just joining us. I am Mumudu Gajaga. On tonight's show, the coronavirus pandemic, the impact that it has caused to global sports, well, is undoubtedly huge, from finance to a whole lot of issues. So many players, coaches are at home because they could not come out to practice the sports that they are used to and the sports that they love so much, in football, in volleyball, in basketball. And we have been in touch with some of these athletes who have been affected, football coach, and also you will also hear from some of the athletes. How are they coping during this COVID-19 pandemic, which means that they would not be able to play their favorite sports as usual. Now let's hear from Dauda Silva, who is a basketball player in the Gambia, how he has been living through with this COVID-19. You will also hear from a Gambian striker, Asen Cisse, and you will also hear from the Gambian national team goalkeeper, that is Modu Job.
Hello everyone, my name is Dauda Silva, a national basketball player. I have an opportunity to represent the Gambia twice in international 3-on-3 games. I'm here to talk about the negative impact of the COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic in the Gambia. As we all know that it is affecting the Gambia and the world at large. But my main focus would be on basketball in the Gambia as an athlete. We all know that the Gambian basketball isn't that strong compared to football, and then throughout the years we have been struggling, and at some point we have seen an immense improvement in the basketball, and then people were getting to know more of basketball, and I had the opportunity to represent the Gambia twice in the international 3-on-3 games, both in Togo 2017 and Benin 2018, and being the youngest to ever represent the national team twice. Yes. The challenges that we face during this pandemic and this crisis is that we are not having the opportunity to resume our national league. We have a change of executive. The former executive were not really improving on the aspect of having leagues and competition due to the coronavirus. So we are now stuck with just staying at home like every other person doing and practicing the social distancing. And then the second thing, as an athlete, you have to be in shape every single time, and doing team practice normally helps an athlete to improve more. But we are doing some home workouts, but it's not compared to doing it on full courts, and a lot of people do not have opportunity as basketball players to have basketball hoops. There is the ring and at home, so that they can be shooting and they can practice their weaknesses. So that is another huge impact that it's affecting us.
As everyone knows, we are in the outbreak of the COVID-19. We are missing what we love, but we cannot do anything. All what we have to do is to stay at home, work hard, keep fit, and we know we miss it, but we have to fight for everybody and stay safe, and we take care of each other, and we can beat this coronavirus to get back to what we love, and life goes on. Thank you all, my Gambian people. Stay safe, stay healthy. We will beat this, inshallah. Thank you.
Yeah, as a professional player, it's always difficult. Life without football, even with the fans right now. Staying home almost for 2 months right now without playing or training is always difficult. But nevertheless, we are giving some programs from our coaches that we have to apply at home, and we are doing everything possible to keep fit so that anytime we are called upon to play, we can give everything we have. We are trying very hard, though it's difficult at this stage. We are hoping that very soon we'll resume, inshallah.
If you're just joining us, this is Qsports and I'm Momudu Gajaga. Joining me on the line is the coach of the Gambia national team, Coach Tom Saintfiet, who just before the COVID-19 pandemic was looking forward to the Gambia's qualification in the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, where they were supposed to play against Gabon on the 30th of March, that is in the past month. Earlier, they were supposed to play on the 26th. That's an away game and the return leg in the Gambia. Well, I have on the line with me Coach. Coach, welcome to this special interview.
Good afternoon.
You are in Belgium just before the qualifiers were put on hold. You were advocating for a cancellation or a delay to the qualifiers. Now that the qualifiers have been delayed, if supposedly the matches were to resume in June or maybe sometime in May for the qualifiers against Gabon, are you still optimistic that the Gambia still have a chance in the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers for Cameroon 2021?
Yeah, first of all, at the moment I was advocating to delay the games and not be able to play in March. There was two reasons for it. The first reason was that 7 of our players who are in the call-up are playing in Italy. I think about Omar Colley, Moussa Barrow, Lamin Jallo, Ibrahima Colley, and some other of the players. They were not available. Italy had closed their borders. Players were not allowed to travel. So it would have meant that we had to play without these 7 players against Gabon. The second thing was naturally that the virus was spreading very fast within Europe, and at that moment of time we could see that it would escalate. Plus it would take a big risk to bring not only Gambian players, but let's say about 300-400 African players from Europe to Africa by plane, traveling around. So it would be a big risk to spread the virus within Africa very fast. That was the first reason, or the two reasons for me to request cancellation at that moment of time. We normally play on FIFA dates. There will be no option to play without FIFA dates, and that's in June. In September, October, November. And as it now looks, in June we won't play because the leagues all over the world are not playing. So that means the players are not fit. And even FIFA addressed already that in June there will be no games. So the earliest we can play is in September, October and November. We have 4 games to go. And I'm sure that all the players will be fit. We are leading our group. And there's no doubt that when we start again, when we have the availability of our team, that we will be competitive to fight for our qualification spot.
Because of the COVID-19, the suspension of all sporting events, it means that the fixtures are going to be congested now. Is this going to affect your qualification chances?
At this moment of time, not. So like I said, we can only play on FIFA breaks. We have 4 games to be played. In theory, you need 2 FIFA breaks to play 4 games. That would mean that we can play in September Gabon away and home, and in October we can play Angola at home and DRC away. And then we have still November. November is still a free FIFA date. So even if there would be a problem in September, you could play in October and November. So we need only 2 FIFA dates to play 4 games. It's not a big difference. We would have played in March 2 games, in June 1 and in September 1. Now if we can play all the games on the end of this year in September, October, November, it will make not a big difference. Most important is that we have the full squad available. And then we will be ready to compete with our 3 opponents to fight for our qualification. So I'm very confident in that.
I'm sure you must be in regular contact with the players. What are they saying? Are they confident? Are they optimistic?
Yeah, the atmosphere is very good. All of us, we are naturally disappointed that we couldn't play in March. We all were dreaming about playing in March both games against Gabon. We knew that we were able, if we would win the both games, we would be already qualified by the 31st of March for the first time in history. The confidence is still there. I'm talking almost weekly with my players all over the world. We talk about football, but we talk also about the private situation. We know the difficulties of some players who are alone in a foreign country. Some are in quarantine. I have not much contact with others, but everyone is in a good mood and a good spirit, and everyone is looking forward to play these qualification games, because we know all this can be the first time that Gambia go to AFCON, and the players are looking forward to that, just like the coaching team and the whole federation.
Thank you very much. I was talking there to the Gambia national team coach, Tom Saintfiet in Belgium, looking at the assessment of the Gambia's qualification chances against Gabon in the qualifiers of the Africa Cup of Nations, which due to COVID-19, all sporting activities have been suspended around the world, including the CAF fixtures. He's still optimistic, looking forward to the qualifiers. If it resumes, maybe sometime in June, maybe in September, it depends on what the football authorities have bring after the COVID-19. If you're just joining us, we are going to talk about the impact of the coronavirus, as it means that all the sporting events around the globe, including the Olympic game, have been shut down. Well, some of the coaches also can't go to the football grounds to conduct regular training with their players. And one such coach with me in the studio is Amat Cham. Amat, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back after a long time, being away from the studio and even away from sports.
When it comes to the coronavirus pandemic, it has affected all aspects of life. Well, sports stands to suffer hugely because of the financial loss, because of the impact that it will have generally, especially in the long term. It means that leagues are not continuing, they are all put on hold. Some leagues, in fact, we talk about the Dutch Eredivisie, which has been cancelled now. There is no promotion, there is no relegation, there is no winner, there is no loser, and there is no prize money. This is really devastating. And in our own Gambian setup as well, the National League is put on hold.
It's interesting, kind of, because what is going to happen for the next few months, we don't know. We'll just be dealing with things the way they come. Now, you will realize that the Gambia Football Federation even came with a document that is saying what is going to happen if the Gambia government is in a position to have the 90 days they are looking for. Probably the league will be cancelled. There will be no promotion, no relegation, and it will affect a lot of things in our football game. Again, if the government, after 45 days, were in a position to allow people to go back to their normal life, the league will continue, but it is only the National League that will be played, where we'll know teams that will be relegated, teams that will be promoted, and probably winners of the league. So it is a global problem which is affecting all sporting lives. We at Q City, it is affecting us because we are not training. We go there normally to do certain jobs, but there is no training, the players are not coming, we send the players home, just ask them to train on their own. And that is affecting, it's the same thing that is happening to league teams. You will see that players will be training on their own. With these social distancing issues and all this, you see players will not come together as a group to do a workout, teams are not coming together. And when it's time to resume, if we are going to resume this season, nobody knows. So these are things that, yes, it's good. That's just the playing side.
When it comes to the players staying at home because of the safety methods, in terms of their training, that individual training that they would do, is it only to maintain or to keep their fitness, to make sure that they're healthy when they resume training? Because it can't be effective as when you are training as a group.
Yeah, it will not be as effective as training as a group because you are not challenged. You are not challenged, you are doing it on your own, you do it at your own level, at your own pace. But if you are challenged, it's a different thing. Yes, that will keep you fit, it will keep you to a level. But when the team comes back to train, everybody is challenged, that's a different level. So right now, the training is just to keep them fit, keep their standards. But when it comes to a proper training session, they are not challenged.
In terms of the financial aspect of it, imagine in the Gambian League, teams like Real de Banjul, teams like Brikama United Armed Forces in the second division as well, they've spent a huge amount of money preparing their teams to get them into shape and playing the league almost into halfway of the season, and then the COVID-19 pandemic means the league can no longer continue until after the pandemic has been declared that, you know, it's no longer a global problem and leagues can resume. That should be a huge financial loss, even though the Gambian League in terms of resources is not up there as compared to other leagues.
The Gambian League is not a professional league. It is not a semi-professional league. We are playing in an amateur league. Whatever we're doing here is just to keep the players or keep the coaches. Yes, probably the coaches, in some clubs it's the coaches who will have the strongest contracts than the players because it is not a professional. Yes, it will affect those clubs, especially if you're paying a huge amount of money to a coach or you're paying your players. What agreement do you have with your players that if you have a particular issue, how are we going to deal with it? Because this is something unforeseen. Nobody was thinking about it. Probably nobody includes that in their contracts. So what are you going to do with the players? You must call the players, you must call the coach and say, yes, hence now there's no work. Let's look at a model to see how we make sure that you are not affected and we are not affected in a way.
It's going to be huge consequences in terms of who gets the shot in terms of winning the league title. Real de Banjul is in pole position. There will be like, what a missed opportunity. That is if the league is going to be cancelled. If it is going to be resumed, will the players be in good shape? Will it give the opportunity to the players or the teams that are about to be relegated or who are in the relegation zone to pick up again and regain their positions?
Yeah, whatever happens, if the league is going to restart, the players might go back to another sort of a pre-season because they have been away from the game for a long time and they need to sharpen themselves, come back to the level. But it will take time to come back to the level when the league stopped. So it's just going to be a sort of a pre-season, and that is why the Football Federation is saying that if the league is going to resume, the league will start in June, restart in June. Now, restarting in June, that means the coaches and players will have a period of at least 2 to 3 weeks to come back, not to regain that level they were when the league was stopped, but at least to come closer to it because they will go back to training in a sort of a pre-season, get back to a fitness level that will help them because they cannot just stop and restart. They have to gradually go back to training, then after a period, they start playing games to get back to sharpness.
I am afraid that some of the players who perhaps have disciplinary issues, your coach is not monitoring your progress, especially your fitness training at home. Would we see a situation where players are overweight?
Yeah, it's very possible depending on the attitude of the player and what the player wants for himself or herself. Because now if you go back, if you're asked to stay at home, and you are asked to go and train on your own, there is the opportunity for you to train on your own every time you want to. There are a lot of fields in the Gambia. You can even go on road running. You can do the push-ups at home, the sit-ups. There are a lot of activities that you can do alone. Yes, but if you don't do it properly, when you go back to training, your coach will know straight away. You can go straight and the coach says, let's go on a fitness test, the beep test. When you do the beep test, straight away they will know whether you were training or not.
If you can't do it
if you
properly,
can't do it properly, they
it
will know.
means
If you
you're
go
in
to,
trouble.
if you go and do the Cooper test, they will know. There are a lot of tests coaches can do to know whether this player is at that level or very close to the level that we left him when the league stopped. And when you do that test, then you'll be in a position to know what work we are supposed to do to get the players to the same level, so that before we start playing again. Yes.
Just before the break, will it also take the flair of the game in terms of when you look at the players who are in shape, because the season was up and running very confined and then fast-paced players in terms of their ball control and their exchange of passes and all of that. It means staying without playing football for almost about 2 months could really have a significant impact.
Yeah, it will have a significant impact because that's what will happen now is the players have to look for game fitness, match fitness, and that will take time. Before you play a lot of games to get used to playing again, it will take time, and really it is going to affect the game for the first probably 2-3 weeks. You will see that players, probably if the players were not training properly, a lot of players will come up with injuries and that will affect the game. But gradually as you play, because you are just coming, you are restarting, as you play gradually, you will regain your fitness, you will regain your game match fitness, and when you regain your match fitness, you'll see that the flair of the game continues.
We will now take a short break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the support that the World Football Governing Body, FIFA, will be giving to member associations. 211 member associations, and each will have $500,000, which in equivalent in the Gambia, if you do the maths, is about $20 million. How is that good money going to be spent? Should it be on players? Should it be on the wages of the teams? Or maybe it should be supporting the clubs? All that after the break. If you're just joining us, this is Qsports, and we're talking about the impact of COVID-19 on global sports, football in particular, in the Gambia. Well, the World Football Governing Body, FIFA, has announced on its website that it will give a support of $150 million to all 211 member associations. Well, of course, Gambia is included. $500,000, $20 million. Coach Amacham, that's a lot of money. Where should the money go?
Yeah, now, first of all, we have to get the money first, because you have to, before you start spending, it must be with you. If it is at the Football Federation, I think they have the responsibility to take care. And what we'll only advise is, yes, it is hard times for Gambian football, hard time for clubs, and especially clubs who are still paying players. They should, I think, for me, I believe the clubs should be supported a lot from this money and make sure that they're in a position to keep their squads, keep their players, keep their coaching staffs intact, so that anytime the call comes back for the league to resume, they'll be in a position to resume as fast as possible without even wasting time. Because they will be spending money, naturally. They'll be spending money on their players, they'll be spending money on their coaches. So for me, the team should get at least a chunk of that money to make sure that they're spent on their teams.
Clubs should get a chunk of that money, but in fact, the money is meant for the football associations, their operational cost and all of that is the FAB money, but now they're paying it earlier so that they can support the football federations to cope with the financial downturn of this COVID-19. But as you suggested, the clubs would have spent a lot of money if the season is to continue. Maybe most of them have lost revenue in terms of advertisement, in terms of commercials and all of that, even though our league is not up to that level where it is being commercialized. Like you said, it's not even semi-professional, talk less of being a professional league. And now the other thing that we're going to talk about is very interesting, is about Senegal's Ismail Assar. Two clubs are arguing over the payment of the transfer fees. That is part of it, at least 5% to your parent club if you are between the ages of 12 up to 23. And two of these clubs, obviously, you know Generation Foot, and you know the other club as well. So
Linguère.
Yeah, Linguère, the Saint Louis is going to be very, very tough. They are in constant communication with Watford, the Premier League side. But Watford, the excuse that they are giving is that, you know, during this pandemic, you can't do bank transfers. In the other aspect is that the Senegalese team said, obviously, it's a big disrespect because before the COVID-19, all the communications have been done, all the emails have been sent.
Ismail Assar moved during the summer, and I think Everton paid a lot of money for him. Sorry, Watford paid a lot of money for him from Lille. And what they're arguing about is what we call the solidarity fund. And this solidarity, what happens is 5% of the transfer fee. Now, depending on which clubs you have played before turning professional, the clubs now, these clubs don't have right over his transfer fee because it's no more their player, unless they had instilled a clause in the dealing when he was leaving Senegal, that is Generation Foot to Metz, then from Metz to Lille. Now, if that did not happen, they can only ask for the solidarity, and that is 5% of the global sum, that is the transfer fee. And that 5%, if two clubs are asking for it, that means each club should have 2.5% of that. And if the player had moved in the summer, or during the summer, this should have been paid. He moved with Idrissa Gana Gueye, the same period. And I understand Jambar have received their solidarity fund for Gana Gueye's fees, so the same thing should have happened. But let them continue asking, let them continue following up. They will be in a position to get the right report, the right results, and when they continue talking to FIFA, it's a must that they will be paid.
And this, in fact, said they are going to report this issue to FIFA, the World Football Governing Body, to take a decision on it. Well, this is something that we would expand on next week in our discussions. Until that day, we say thank you very much for watching Qsports. This is all that we have for you, and thank you, Coach Amacham.
It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you.